Hello, and welcome to episode number 82 of Future Chat from Unwind Media. Every week on this show, we take an hour or so to discuss all the week's most interesting science and tech news, and it seems like almost every week we have some technical difficulties before we start. Mike, what's going on with you this week?
Well, I fresh installed Windows 10 on my SSD, which I'll have a blog post detailing in
Ooh,
great extent at some point. But currently, as you can see for our viewers, my computer is still open, so I
oh yeah,
haven't
yeah, yeah.
fully gotten around to finalizing that. But I was installing some software and some hardware and just had some configuration issues. My computer thought my mic was a set of speakers, so
Easy
there's
mistake.
there's that. Yeah, it's understandable. They look kind of the same, so we'll give Windows a break.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nick,
but
how
we're
you doing
here.
today? Uh-oh.
Everything just broke up. What happened?
I said, how are you?
Speaking of technical difficulties,
Oh, yeah. I'm so tired.
Yeah.
I don't even understand why. I got like 11 hours of sleep last night, and then or not last night, the night before last. Oxed, or is that reversed ox, or
that's
reverse
reverse
oxed?
aux. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Roxed.
Rocks night.
Got a lot of sleep roxed tonight. And
I don't remember the definition of that word anymore. I remember that conversation, but
It's supposed to mean the week after next or the day after next is
oh
oxed.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, not this blank, but next blank.
Yeah.
Hmm. I still like tomorrow, morrow,
Right.
or
But
yesterday, today.
yesterday.
Yeah.
You like tomorrow more?
Yes.
Oh.
So we have some follow up. We'll move straight through this because again we're gonna do this. Try to keep this show short this week. I'm gonna jump straight to the end of the follow up to start, and all I see here is beard news. What's new in beard news? I assume this is Nick.
Okay. So beard news. Uh, the scenes the seasons are changing in Calgary, and my beard was getting awful itchy. But you know who is there for me? Kent of Inglewood.
Oh yeah.
It's a shave shop, but they had mentioned last time I was in there that they had beard products too. And my God, he was like, "Yeah, this is like some leave-in conditioner. You want to try some now?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, okay." So I just took a dab and like worked it in there. I was like, "Oh, the itching has stopped."
That's actually nice.
Yeah, he ended up selling me the conditioner, but the one I tried was unscented, so I got the lime scented one and some beard shampoo as well.
Hmm.
My beard feels so nice. It's all like soft.
S- So tell me, Nick, are you not able to just use your herbal essences at the same time as you're washing
You're
your hair? You can just throw it
we
into your beard.
talked about that in the beard shop. I
Okay.
mean, your sarcasm aside.
I'm actually not
Um,
being. This is what I do. I use the herbal essences in my
oh,
beard if I'm needing to wash it. There
okay.
is no sarcasm.
All right. Well, I'm glad. Um, no, because it like the stuff for your hair is meant to really strip away all the oils and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And that's like your scalp is, I guess, used to being treated differently than the rest of your skin, but this skin right here, not so much.
Huh. I'm glad this
So,
episode is sponsored by Herbal Essences now.
no, this episode is sponsored by Kent of Inglewood.
That's fair.
Um,
So,
and
so is
yeah,
that scalp prejudice or beard prejudice? If the scalp's used to being treated a certain way.
well, I mean, is it prejudice? Because like the scalp could feel superior about it. It's like I'm not like the rest of all your other skin. A little bit more fabulous than that,
Right.
or something like that. But yeah, and so now my beard smells lightly of cedar and lime, and it's nice. It's all soft. Can you pick that up on the mic? The
Sorry, I meant scalp privilege, not scalp
the beard
prejudice.
rubbing.
Doesn't matter anymore. Oh man. No, I can't pick it up on the call, but I'll see if I can insert some audio of your beard being
Oh,
tousled.
good.
Yeah. Just gain that up.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh man. So we do. There is some more actual follow up, and
Are you
so
saying mine isn't follow-up? We talk about beards all the time,
no, I
Rob.
know. I mean, science or tech related follow up.
This is the tech of beard care. That's what this
Okay.
is. Cosmetics are a technology.
Speaking of fluff pieces,
We got word, I guess probably in the middle, beginning of this week, that SpaceX is going to be trying again with their Falcon 9 on December 19th, which is before the recording of our next show. So I figured we should at least mention it. We'll be able to follow up in the next show about obviously the how it went, and presumably it will be successful. And we talked about in the I think it was the summer, like June or something, or early July, the last Falcon 9 launch. It was the one that tipped over and exploded, right? Like they landed and then it just fell over. So they're trying to get this reusable rocket booster. They've decided, I think this is for this one, and I don't have 100% confirmation on that, but they're giving up for now on the autonomous drone ship in the ocean as a landing platform, and they're just going to try to land at, I believe, Johnson, or either that or Cape Canaveral. Uh, they're going to just try to land it at the Space Center. So hopefully that'll be a little easier. They don't have to deal with waves or anything like that. It's a bit more controlled. Presumably this is in response to Blue Origin and their ground landing. Elon wants to be like, well, if we compare apples to apples here, we're obviously better than you because we're able to get to orbit. Apparently they're dropping off supplies to the ISS, but they're also releasing some satellites, some private satellites. And so they're going to be doing at least several orbits and then, or at least one orbit and then landing again. So, which will defeat the Blue Origin, the Jeff Bezos project. They should have just called it the Jeff Bezos project, where they got to 100.5 kilometers, like the edge of space, basically, and then dropped a
It
capsule.
sounds like a nice band name, the Jeff
Yeah,
Bezos
yeah.
Project.
Exactly. But so that while being a technical feat and being a vertical takeoff and landing of a booster, it's not really it's not the same thing as it would be getting into orbit and then landing again on ground. So I think if they're able to do this successfully, then Elon Musk will take any and all doubt out of anyone's mind that they're still ahead of Blue Origin.
do people have doubt?
Well, some people, well, Jeff Bezos obviously has doubt where he's like, we did it, we managed to land it successfully. But yeah, other people on the Blue Origin team, I presume, feel the same way. But this would just erase, or if not erase all doubt, then at least give back the helm of space excellence to Elon and his team.
It's not a contest, though.
No,
It shouldn't
I mean,
be a contest.
sure. I mean, it's kind of helpful when it is a contest,
Yeah.
if we're being honest, because the space race, the only reason we got
Yeah.
to the moon was because Russia was also trying, or the Soviet Union was also trying to do that.
Yeah.
So in a way, this is actually probably the best possible scenario for both teams to have someone to compete against who is in similar positions. But yeah, that we'll keep an eye out and report back next week or whenever we do the next episode. I'll have to have a conversation about the Christmas season, and we'll follow up to see whether they were successful.
Yeah.
Our other piece of space follow-up here, we talked quite a while ago when they first scientists first started looking at Ceres, the little small dwarf planet, large asteroid that was being approached by a satellite. We saw these bright spots on it, and we're very curious as to what that was, whether it was alien civilization with electricity, whether it was...
Was that a conjecture? Was it?
I believe so. I believe everything... When something
Did
happens in space, we
qualified
assume aliens
people
first.
have that conjecture?
No, I think that's science. That's everyone thinks aliens first, and then has to prove it's not aliens. That's how.
Oh,
Science works.
yeah, that is how that works.
That's actually really not that untrue.
No, I know.
It's like, wait, guys, is this aliens? No? Okay, let's move on. That's kind
Yeah.
of...
Yeah. So there's an article here from Slate from the bad astronomer himself, Phil Plait, talking about how they've gotten closer now, and this Dawn spacecraft has they've done a bit of, I guess, spectroscopy on these bright spots, and they've discovered that they are very likely. I mean, obviously they can't get there to test, but based on the analysis they have done, it's salt. Specifically, I think they said it was a type of magnesium salt. I want to say magnesium sulfate based on what I read a while. Oh yeah, magnesium sulfate is what it was, because they had seen spectral signatures of two different kinds of magnesium sulfates. One being, I think, a hexahydrate, and then the other one being just a single hydrate.
Whoa,
And so
hold up. Hold up. Hexahydrate and monohydrate? That is crazy news.
I can't.
That's better than aliens right there.
Is it?
Jesus Christ.
This isn't fluff
This
news.
show.
What?
Oh,
I'm intrigued by your outrage at this, Nick.
this is all just outrage over aliens. The alien statement.
Oh, good. Well,
Yeah.
I never thought it was aliens. Just to be clear, I'm just.
I'm just reporting that other people might have thought they were aliens. I remain blameless in this whole exchange, Nick.
Oh, Nick.
Nick, if you asked any scientist that in times like these, when there's news of, oh, it might be aliens, everyone hopes they're aliens.
Hmm.
You can't deny that.
Can't I?
No, you shouldn't. You can if you want, but you shouldn't.
I'm just gonna be mute on my thoughts and let you guys assume.
That's fair.
You'll probably assume right.
What I do want to say is that this space body, I'll call it, there's debate at the end of the article whether it's an asteroid, whether it should be defined as an asteroid or a small planet. It's hydrated magnesium sulfate. There is water on that body. Whether that means there's life, we're talking about Mars, and we're looking at. Nick, you're muted, but you're still laughing, and I don't understand.
Rob, just don't go there.
I'm not trying to say there's advanced alien life forms, but the idea that there's water on this planet would lend the same credence to the fact that there could be some sort of carbon-based something or something.
For the record, I think the possibility of extremophiles is much more likely than an alien civilization capable of producing big bright spots.
Oh, of course, yes.
Unless it was a fungus, then I could understand.
Nick, that was sarcasm. I hope that's clear now. So, yeah, I think this is awesome. I love that we're sending out all these crafts, and I don't really hear about them as they're being launched, because I haven't been paying attention to space in detail for that long, basically since we started covering it on this show. But you always hear about it in the news now when these things are approaching their destinations, and I think it's really cool that we get to see all this cool space science going on before NASA's funding inevitably runs out.
So
yeah,
I'm
go ahead,
in
Nick.
a bit of a silly mood.
I can
and-
tell.
Yeah. And I heard the phrase spacecraft, and I was like, I wonder what it would be like if they were like actual arts and crafts that went into space.
I thought the same thing too.
It's like, yes, our paper mache technology has come a very long way, but unfortunately, it has burned up again in re-entry, and everyone's like, oh man.
Of course,
There's
it
a
burned
bunch
up
of
in
people
re-entry.
with glue, dry glue still on their fingers, just like starting to sob, and it's rehydrating the glue, and it's getting all gross.
I'm so glad that wasn't just me.
Yeah.
Because Rob, you're like, oh, when we release all these crafts to space, I was like, what would that be like?
Yeah, right. It's like there's a legend where if you fold 1,000 paper cranes, you'll get one wish.
Mhm.
And it's like, I wish that these paper cranes went to space. And then like they just opened the hatch and all the paper cranes went to space. And you're like, my wish came true.
This is such a weird conversation, but I'm glad you both thought of it at the same time.
Me too.
Oh man. So the last piece of follow-up here is it's not so much follow-up, it's tangential to other things we've talked about, and I don't want to get into too much detail about it. Uh, there's some research here out of, I'm guessing this is somewhere in Europe based on the names, but some research done on diesel technology and specifically the catalysts that are used in making diesel. And so this group of scientists, this group of researchers has developed a new type of manufacturing process for diesel that that eventually, once it's burned up, emits less CO2. And they're basically saying they changed the catalyst a little bit. They tweaked how it works. And they're saying it can be scaled up to be used industrially. And they're saying within 5 to 10 years, we can see cars driven by this new diesel, which, as Nick and I were talking about this before we started recording, just sounds an awful lot like the clean diesel technology that Volkswagen promised us, what, 5 or 10 years ago, and look where we are now. It's very suspicious given this timing. But I wanted to get your guys' thoughts if this was something that was interesting, or we should consider moving towards clean diesel, or just kind of focus on electric.
If I'll kind of jumping ahead here, but with the Paris conference they just had,
Yeah.
scientists, the infamous scientists that are always quoted, they're saying that
Those infamous scientists.
I know they comment on
always
everything.
being quoted on.
Crazy.
Jeez.
Apparently they're saying that if they're to meet the goals that the Paris Agreement has set out, you need to be completely off of burning all hydrocarbons by 2050.
Mm-hmm.
So clean diesel is still a hydrocarbon. So if they're
Unless we're
trying-
doing biodiesel.
Mm-hmm.
I think I guess does that not still release CO2 when you burn it?
Well, it's a carbon neutral process.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Sure. Then anything that's not.
No new CO2.
Right. So that's what they're saying. So I guess this is better than what we have now, but it's still not going to be enough if they're trying to meet the goals that they're shooting for.
The interesting thing about this is the very last sentence where it says the new technique can be applied to petroleum-based fuels, but also to renewable carbon from biomass.
Oh. So you'd be carbon negative even.
I don't think that means carbon negative because it's still releasing the CO2 at the end, but it would definitely be more efficient and would potentially help this target of 2050.
Once more, what were we saying on carbon neutral versus carbon sink?
Rob, it would be carbon negative if you're producing the diesel with X amount of carbon and burning it and releasing less than what you captured, then it is carbon negative.
I agree with that, but I don't think that's what that process would be.
Are we talking just a hypothetical process, or what are we talking about here?
So
the biomass process.
Nick, they're saying that they can apply the same diesel technology to biodiesel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, well, like if you're... I assume what they'll be doing there is if they're using a catalyst, it's going to be using the same fuel to get farther, so there's no total reduction in CO2.
Less overall,
That said, with biodiesel, I think what a lot of times you're using oils. So if you're getting the oils from a perennial plant or something like that, and depending on what you do with the waste, like if you take the waste and compost it and bury it or something like that to enrich your soil or boost the carbon content of your soil, that could be considered a carbon sink depending on how stable it is. Because like switchgrass as a fuel would be carbon negative because so much of the biomass is deep underground.
Right.
And it's there for geological timescales, apparently, as I previously read. So, it could potentially be a carbon sink.
Yeah, the entire process could be more carbon negative than it is currently, but it seems like if you're getting the biomass in a way that uses less carbon in the end, it would need to it would take in less carbon in the beginning. So I don't think the individual process itself
Right.
of creating the biodiesel would result in a more carbon negative process unless you were using badly sourced like non-biodiesel, and then yeah, I just don't see how it would end up being carbon negative.
Like if they're using a catalyst, it should take the same amount of carbon and go further with it.
Yeah, yeah,
But regardless how much carbon you've taken originally, if not all the carbon that went into making the plant is then re-emitted into the atmosphere, it's a sink.
yeah,
Right.
So if you've got like roots and stuff that you're leaving there, or you're
Mhm.
composting the leftovers or whatever, that would be a carbon sink based on the life cycle of the feedstock.
yeah. So at least, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, but the way I read it, the way they're saying that it emits far less CO2, it's that it emits less CO2 per kilometer, not overall.
I think
And
that's
that was
yeah.
going to be my feedback. Like I'd like to see what metrics they're using for
Yeah.
that, because that my assumption is that that has to be what it is.
See, I read it as grams of CO2 per gram of fuel burnt. So it's like literally cleaner, not that just better mileage.
Oh, that
And
could
how,
be like
CO2 emissions then.
that could have to do with like the length or the branching of the molecules, because like I mean if you're going gram for gram, I think you get more out of natural gas than you do out of octane.
right?
I think.
Yeah,
But
that
that's
makes
just the
sense.
nature of the fuel.
Yeah.
Like yeah, that's how I can describe it, I think.
Mhm. So it could be, I guess, is what we're concluding, but we
Could
would
be
need to see
either.
more
Yeah.
detail.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that just means that there's less carbon per gram of the fuel, so
Yeah,
it probably is more branched or shorter.
yeah.
And more branched and shorter things burn better.
Yes. All right. So it's now time for. I don't even think this is going to be a long rant, but this is the rant that I
Oh,
teased
man.
about last week.
I forgot my popcorn.
Why do you have popcorn? Oh, you. I get it. All right. I don't.
Yeah,
I
there
don't
we
like
go.
popcorn, so that was confusing, but I get it now.
Why would you get something you hate?
No, I meant like I was thinking of it as a snack food, not as a like.
It's a
Oh, I
saying,
want to sit and
Rob.
watch this.
It's a saying
I get it.
on the internet.
Go
Nick
ahead,
was
Rob.
just such a good actor that he committed so fully. He actually looked over and he was like, "Oh, I forgot the popcorn." I thought he legitimately forgot the popcorn. Anyways, I wanted to talk a bit about Facebook. I went back to my blog around the beginning of October 6th, I think it was. I wrote a piece called "I Still Hate Facebook." I've ragged on Facebook a lot in the last several years, basically since I started my second account back in 2010 or 2011. I was ragging on it at that time about advertising and rearranging the newsfeed, and I still don't like that. I don't like the way that they manipulate things to only show you certain people's stuff, and based on what you click on or what you look at the longest, you end up getting into a filter bubble type of situation where you don't see important things, or things that could potentially be important to you, or different points of view. Basically, the idea that Facebook is filtering your social life for you. And this has kind of come to a head where I now think the way Facebook works, like it's predicated on the fact that you have a list of so-called friends. They call your connections with other people friendships. And they've even gone so far as to highlight when you're at a friendship anniversary on Facebook. So like this is predicated on the fact that anyone that you're connected to is your friend. And I get the feeling more and more recent as the years go on that Facebook doesn't actually consider your connections to be friendships, even though they still call them that. They really think of them more as just even almost like more like LinkedIn connections, because it's not the one-to-one thing that Twitter has where you can follow someone and have them follow you. It's it's literally just thought of as nodes on a network, these individual Facebook accounts or individual people or pages or whatever. And the reason I feel that way is because the content that you post is treated differently, A, based on its source, the whether it came from you, whether it was a picture, whether it was a video, whether it was just a regular link on the internet. It's treated differently that way based on where it came from. It's treated differently based on who it came from. So if you are friends with, if I'm friends with, say, Nick, and we both have our Facebook settings set up so that we have prioritized each other, so that we see something first from the other person. But let's say, for instance, I post a lot of things. Like, say I post 3 things a day, and Nick only ever actually sees those things or goes on Facebook enough to see one of those things per week. So out of the 21 things in a week, he sees one thing. He is going to start...
7 things. Wasn't
Sorry?
it 7 things?
One thing per week.
Oh, okay.
He's going to start seeing less and less of my content because he isn't interacting with it. Whether or not he wants to see more, he's going to be seeing less. And Facebook, other companies that work with Facebook actually know this. They're completely aware of this. Companies like YouTube they've been shut down on Facebook deliberately by Facebook because Facebook has this new Facebook video product. When you post a YouTube link on Facebook now, it gives you, for some reason, every YouTube video in the last 5 years has been either, portrait videos notwithstanding, has been 16:9, like a widescreen video format. And it could take up the entire width of the page like Facebook videos do, like links on Facebook generally do if they have a big picture. But Facebook chooses to literally chop down YouTube to make it look worse so that people will use Facebook video. And I was just the reason that this particular point came into my head was yesterday I was looking to post a SoundCloud link on Facebook, which should be the same thing. Like, it used to be that when you posted a SoundCloud link, it would show you this rich SoundCloud player. But I was looking into it, and there's an FAQ page on SoundCloud where they had to recently change this, and now a link to SoundCloud just links as a dumb link with a thumbnail art and with a regular web link because of the way Facebook has changed the way that Facebook works internally. So like people who are not Facebook are being punished for posting things not to Facebook itself. It's eventually going to get to the point, Facebook has their new notes update where it now looks like a real sort of modern blogging thing like Medium. And the same thing is eventually going to happen to blogs and to websites, where if you don't post on either Facebook's instant articles format or if you don't post as a Facebook note, your content's going to be downgraded. They're jumping into all these fields and icing out everyone else from other platforms, and it just makes me sad because as somebody who posts a lot of things, whether I'm posting a Facebook picture, whether I'm posting a link to Facebook, not only is my content filtered by where it came from, like if something comes from my website, no matter what it is, if people don't click on it, Facebook is going to be financially motivated to show it to fewer people, and it's just an endless loop where you can't actually get out of that hole. And not only that, but content from YouTube specifically, like you're disincentivized from clicking on a YouTube link because you're going to be shunted out of the app. It's not going to start playing locally there, even though Facebook and YouTube have worked that way in the past. It's purely a spiteful reason why Facebook changed that functionality, and it's just really frustrating as somebody who wants to make things on the internet and is blocked from doing so. It makes me honestly just want to not use Facebook at all. Like, it makes me want to use Facebook Messenger to communicate with friends that don't want to get another thing. But it makes me want to stop posting things on Facebook because it just seems like it's just making things worse and worse for me socially over time. That's it. I can get some comments from you guys now. I could just keep talking for hours.
Well, I feel like the South Park references were evident in that one. Like, I imagine you wanted to say "I'm not your friend, buddy" a few times.
I have never watched a full episode of
It's
South
like,
Park.
I mean, Facebook treats these people like it calls them friends, but like, "I'm not your friend, buddy," and I'm assuming that's where that one should have gone.
It probably
And
should have.
also, like, and it doesn't post it in 16:9, and that makes me a sad panda.
Mhm. That would have also worked. I've heard that reference, but I've not
Yeah.
watched the show.
Is
Yeah.
the follow up to "I'm not your friend, buddy"? "I'm not your buddy, pal" or something?
Guy.
And then there's like "I'm not your pal, dude" or something. I don't know.
It's friend, buddy, and guy.
Okay.
Not your friend, buddy. I'm not your buddy, guy. I'm not your guy, friend.
As far as my comments,
in Canada.
as
Yeah.
far as my comments actually related to what you were saying, Rob, I'd for one, Twitter isn't much different than
Twitter's
what you're describing.
chronological though.
It's not really. They have the "while you were gone" feature that
That's like 4 or 5 tweets. That I know they're going that
mine's
way.
a lot more than 4 or 5 when I do it.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
obviously gone for longer than I am.
I guess that's what it's saying. And then the content is the same way. You know, like Instagram links, they're just links. They don't directly post a picture. There's
Unless you do my
there's
trick.
ways. Yeah, no, yeah. There's ways around it.
I should actually post that trick.
And with most content in general, I think it's fairly. You know, you post a link and it. I don't think if it does previews. It does a little bit of a preview possibly.
I think
but,
the iOS app now does a preview, but yeah, you're right.
yeah. So, but it's more that Facebook used to do this and now they're not.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what you're saying. But at the same time, it's their product and their
Yeah.
platform. So you can't blame them for doing that because it is in their best interest for people to upload content to their own site.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, but it's just the way things are, I think. And honestly, Facebook video is a much better experience because
Then
they have
what?
the posting a YouTube link.
Because they did it that way.
Right. That's the point.
But yeah, I'm just thinking it makes me not want to use Facebook.
And they don't care. They're okay with you leaving.
Yep.
There are like 5 billion other people on there.
Yeah. No, like actually, like, and that's the thing is their Facebook superstars are going to use their platform and they're not going to care.
I don't think there are any Facebook superstars though.
Well, the 50 million view Facebook videos would lead me to believe.
I mean, Facebook
there are.
freebooting is a thing. I will post several links to YouTube creators who've talked about how Facebook
Right.
users
No, I-
steal their videos.
No, there probably aren't Facebook superstars the same way there's Twitter ones. Every time I see a Facebook verified account, I'm like, what? Like, who's that guy? Like, you don't. Facebook verified accounts are very weird to me because
Yep.
they're like not actual people worth verifying. I don't think.
Right.
It's not like, is that the real Donald
we-
Trump?
Should we tweet to Brady Heron that we just used the term freebooting? Because I think he would be just over the moon about it.
We can, yeah, for sure. I'm going to put a link to his discussion about it. I'll put a link to Veritasium's and Kurzgesatz and Smarter Every Day. It's like all these YouTubers have, like science YouTubers
Yeah.
specifically, but there's lots of them around that have just been talking about this nonstop for over a year.
Wasn't it CGP that was more the infringement like discussion on Hello Internet?
Did he? But he didn't make a video about it. I mean,
No, he didn't make a video of it. No.
they talked about it for sure.
Yeah.
Very early in the Hello Internet paradigm.
That's when I tried to start listening, but I couldn't.
Mm,
Too much time commitment for that one.
it's so worth it.
Oh, I'm sure it is if you have the time to dedicate to it.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have anything else to say about Facebook. I might take a break from it for a while. We'll see.
Personally, I find that Facebook is good for what I use it for, which is staying in contact with actual friends and family. But as far as online interaction with people, as far as other than liking a picture of a baby,
Yeah.
like actual commenting on stuff or that kind of thing, I think Twitter is what it's there for.
Mhm.
Facebook is better left as looking at people's pictures and planning events and that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with Mike in that Facebook is a business, and it is in a business's best interest to try and promote itself, like how Google will prioritize googly things over everything else because it serves the interest of the business.
Right.
At the same time, I kind of wish we could just collectively abandon Facebook for Google Plus, but
Hmm.
the reason I'm still on Facebook is that everyone's on Facebook,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much a success on their part. And
Hmm. So the
yeah,
difference in my mind, at least, and maybe I'm looking at this from a skewed perspective, but my thoughts are, it's great. You are a business. You have every right to run this business the way you want, and obviously, it's been very successful for them. But I think that a few of the decisions they've made in that regard are hostile to users and hostile to their advertisers in a way that if they keep going down that route will eventually mean that those people will get fed up like I am and leave. And at that point, like it's not necessarily today, maybe they don't care, but in a year or two, if half the people are gone, or even 10% of the people are gone, they're going to have to answer to shareholders and they're going to lose a bunch of money. So,
let's all just use Google Plus from now on.
done.
Except we won't get any advertising penetration, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, we're not getting any advertising penetration on Facebook.
It's true. Very true.
Do we have the metrics on that?
Yes. I mean,
There
we're not
are.
advertising with Facebook.
Well, no, we're not advertising, but like, what percentage of our views are coming from Facebook?
Uh, a negligible amount.
Okay.
Between 0 and 1.
Yes. Somewhere between. Depends on the week. All right. Well, that's it for Facebook for now. I will ruminate and I will maybe give up Facebook for a while, but we should move on. Mike, you have some very important news from this past week.
I do. It's half political, half scientific,
Yes.
half activist. But the Canadian and 54 other governments met in Paris to discuss climate change and what the plan is moving forward. I think we're all old enough to remember and talk about the Kyoto Protocol
Yep.
in school
Yep.
and how silly of a thing it was, and
Well-
Canada backed out of that in 2011. So this one's a bit more of a robust and binding agreement. Is legally binding apparently, but it's not
It's
the kind where if you don't meet your goals, you'll get sanctions against you. Which in my mind is, well, what's the motivation to keep to it? But
I was going to say the legally binding part of it is that you're forced to report to your partners.
yeah, which is like, sorry guys, we're failing. Okay.
But you have to do that.
Sure. If that's motivation enough, then I guess that's good. But
Yeah.
the goal is to limit the temperature rise to less than 2 degrees Celsius, which is what the scientific community has been saying repeatedly the last couple years that is necessary to prevent catastrophic effects from climate change. And this is a universal agreement, not just the wealthy countries that the Kyoto Protocol had. So it's all countries in the world, at least a part of the UN, I guess.
Mhm.
There's a couple other items here that I'll just kind of go through quickly. That there's an agreement to provide $100 billion annually to the poor countries to support the climate change initiative to develop new technologies and just kind of combating climate change in a general sense. I guess whatever they want to use that money for, they can. Must publish greenhouse gas reduction targets, as we were talking about, that have to be reviewed and revised upward every 5 years, starting in 2023.
Mhm.
And the goal is to be carbon neutral between 2050 and 2100. So no later than 2100, but the goal is 2050.
Right.
And yeah, it's legally binding, but no sanctions. So we'll see how this pans out. I guess the official goal is 1.5 degrees increase
Right.
to not be above that. The official goal is 2, but the kind of lower target is 1.5.
Yeah. I'm intrigued to see how this pans out because it seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's something I'm not thinking of, but it seems like the furthest into the future humanity has ever set firm targets. We're talking about between 2050 and 2100
Yeah.
having this carbon neutrality. Like that seems crazy far away from now. And we're thinking that
Yeah.
far into the future, trying to, now that we have the data to back up caution, like extreme caution in regards to the climate, it's really great that all these countries are coming together and seeing that despite the very vocal people who oppose the idea that climate change is a thing, they're all just kind of saying, all right, we understand that you feel this way, but you're wrong, and we need to move forward on this seriously, and they're doing that. Very
Yeah.
happy.
It should be noted that this agreement still has to be ratified in every country that
Yeah.
agreed to it. So it's similar to the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Yeah.
That one was agreed upon, but still had to be ratified in each country. So
Yeah.
there's still a ways to go, and that's why 2020 is I think the official start of the agreement. So they have 4 years, I guess, to ratify it in each of the 55 countries.
Mhm.
And I will point out here that the Harper government was widely criticized for setting their endpoint as 2050.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So we already had an endpoint of 2050. That said, they said, 2050, that's our goal, and then proceeded to do nothing on that file. But so I mean, rightly criticized in that respect, but 2050 is still I feel like it doesn't give the
Urgency.
the urgency or the imminence of the problem
Mhm.
any credence, because we need to act much faster than 2050 if a lot of the reports I've read are to be believed.
Yeah.
It's realistic though. If the plan is to phase out all hydrocarbon
Yeah, and
burning
especially if we're
energies.
talking about the developing countries.
Yeah, right?
And I haven't paid nearly enough attention to the Paris Agreement. Did they say anything about debt forgiveness for like carbon offset projects?
It's a 33-page report, so the 5 points that CBC summarized is what I told you. So I don't know.
Okay,
It
all
could
right.
very well include provisions like that.
Because I feel like Canada did that recently. We forgave like I don't know, a bunch of debt for some country, and they were like, we'll build this better kind of non-CO2 belching plant, and we're like, cool.
Mhm.
We'll give you or we'll rip up this IOU if you do that. And I think like forgiving sovereign debt of developing countries in exchange for carbon neutral energy generation would be a good idea. But I don't know if it's in there.
I mean, so on a related note, I don't know what it's like in Calgary right now, but last year at this time, or last year a couple months later, February 23rd, Ottawa was the coldest capital in the entire world, and that's a pretty hard title to get when countries like Mongolia and Russia exist. It's currently above zero and it's mid-December, and that's like we talk about how climate isn't the same as weather.
I was gonna say, are you starting
I
to
was gonna say
conflate
too.
weather with climate
You're
change,
starting to
Rob?
sound like Donald Trump there.
Yeah,
But
Or, no,
are
it's
you
Jeb Bush.
contributing to
I
the
think it's
problem right now, Rob? Because I think you might be about to.
no. So the trends in the last few years have been that the last 5 to 10 years have been the last 5 to 10 years, the hottest 5 to 10 years on record, and that is a trend that is pushing upwards. And so what I'm saying is I'm not surprised that we are seeing actual consequences of it. Like we're hitting high temperature records right now in Ottawa in December.
But Rob, there's also places that are colder than ever, so you can't.
Where
Other places.
do you
Just-
have any?
Yes, look at it's what the climate change deniers are using as evidence to say, oh, what do you mean it's warming? Look how cold it is. So
Well,
I
no,
know what you're saying, but that's a very isolated incident that doesn't at all talk about global
people
warming.
aren't saying that there are new record colds being set. People are saying I'm in New York City and it's winter and it's cold, so global warming doesn't exist. They're
No,
not
but there
nitpicking
are actual
records.
places. No, there are actual places that are colder than ever.
Fair. I'm gonna look this up.
Well, because Rob, it's an average. There's places that are very warm and places that are very cold, and it averages out to a net
Why?
increase in global
I
temperature.
understand that.
So that's what
Do
I'm
you
saying.
though? Do you really understand it, Rob?
I
Because
do.
from the conversation we're having, I kind of doubt that you do.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue to look because it doesn't seem like I get that obviously these new records, but I'm not saying that there aren't any new cold records being made. I'm saying overwhelmingly the majority of hot records are being smashed year in year out. And what we're going to see is not just the the like the whole reason for going from global warming to climate change is that not only is the Earth getting warmer overall, but climate patterns are changing such that weird places are being different temperatures than they have been historically. Like the one example I see here from November 30th is record-breaking cold temperatures chill Northern California. Like that's a place where their economy depends on warm temperatures.
So what you're saying is you're taking what me and Nick are saying and you're using it as your own idea.
I'm not using. I know I'm not. It's not your idea. It
You're
is the.
like you're like, yeah, that's what I've been saying this whole time, guys.
No. I'm saying I looked up and I do see one, but it's in a place that is not known for being cold.
That's what I didn't say it was known for being cold. I just
I
said they're
know.
colder than ever.
We're in complete agreement. I'm
Okay.
trying to
Are we
That's all I
tell.
though?
wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to make sure.
The point I'm trying to make is that places are having different climates than they are used to, and overall the trend is
Yes,
going upwards.
I agree.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I said in
I know.
different words. Okay.
We're in agreement.
Okay, good. Glad we got that straight.
I'm confused as to what just happened, frankly, but we can move on.
It's just below zero in Northern California
Okay.
in at the end of November.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Nick, you have a story here that I have no. All I see is an all caps title,
Oh
and
my
I don't
God.
know what it's about. So what's your news about?
Okay, so I believe we're familiar with archive.org here at this
We are.
organization. Yeah,
hmm
yeah. Are they still hosting our stuff long term or
They are hosting up until the point that we moved to SoundCloud. They still have the
great.
back catalog.
Okay. So Heart of Future Chat is still on archive.org.
Mhm.
It's an organization that seeks to archive, all the things from the internet. And they have archived the game Cross Country Canada. Pause for applause. Pause for cheering.
I don't know what that is.
Did you not play Cross Country Canada as a child?
It sounds like Oregon Trail, but Canadian.
Am I the only one here that played Cross Country Canada as a
Yes.
child in school?
I think you might be.
I played Oregon Trail, but definitely not
My
Cross Country
God.
Canada.
What did you people do in school?
Oregon Trail.
Was it
We
just like
we learned.
they just
I
sat
played
you
Chip
down and talked
Challenge.
about they just sat you down and talked about the national energy policy and then had you go off and do some square dancing? Is that what you did in school?
There's a lot of that, yeah.
Yes, on the square dancing,
Yes.
and that's not even lying. And
No,
we
I
played.
know it's not even lying. I got here and I was shocked. It's like you actually okay.
It's part of the curriculum is square dancing.
Well, that's why educational institutions exist to prop up that knowledge which might be lost by a culture, that truly essential knowledge that needs to be spread mimetically.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's true.
hmm
Yeah.
So I
So
don't know
Nick,
why I have to explain this. It's
Nick,
so
hold
awesome.
on. Before you explain this,
Yes.
for people who have you played Oregon Trail?
No.
Okay, because
It's just a game though.
that's what it's a computerized game where you try to trek across the U.S. And it sounds like the Canadian analog is what you're describing.
No,
So
no.
people,
Cross Country Canada is edutainment. It's educational.
I understand that.
So the whole deal behind the game is that you're a truck driver and you have to pick up commodities from all the different regions of Canada, which have like the different commodities or whatnot.
Mhm.
That was a terrible way of explaining it. So I mean, for example, if it says you need to pick up cod, that's obviously St. John's, Newfoundland,
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I was gonna say
and
Vancouver, but
Salmon.
I'd obviously fail at this game.
yeah, yeah. I did get salmon in Vancouver
Yeah,
the other game, I think. Yeah. Or beef was from Calgary.
obviously.
Or fruit was Niagara Falls,
Mhm.
I think Sydney, Nova Scotia, and Kelowna, BC.
Makes
So it's
sense.
like, and it actually, as you're driving across, it tells you about the geography and all the stuff like going along. So it actually gives kids more a tangible way to appreciate the geography within such a vast country. So I played it a lot as a kid because it was in our school and it was the only game.
Yeah.
But I actually beat it for the first time just the other day because when it was still on the computers, I was at an age where it just did not quite make sense that I was supposed to do something in the game.
Right.
It was just me like, look, I'm driving a truck. This is amazing. That kind of stuff. But oh, it was so cool. They just published like, a bunch of old MS-DOS games. So if you got a hankering for nostalgia, you go right ahead. I highly encourage both of you to try Cross Country Canada.
Okay.
Except some of it, if you checked your Snapchat, is a little dated.
I saw it very dated, yes.
Yeah, on your way from Montreal to Ottawa, it's like, oh, the Canadian or the National Science and Technology Museum is up ahead, and it's like,
No.
no, it's not. Like, it's even if you want computer parts, you're supposed to go to Ottawa because for a long time, Ottawa was known as Silicon Valley North, and it's like not so much anymore.
There's some.
Yeah, but I
It's
mean,
been usurped.
Nortel isn't quite as big a thing as it was when that game was published.
Definitely not.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
the best.
Is it for the best?
Yeah. Considering what happened in Nortel, I would think so.
But anyway, so yeah, Cross Country Canada. It's like all my friends from that end of the country were super stoked, but I guess you were learning about ranching and Ukrainians and pipelines.
Yeah. Mike, did you ever play Oregon Trail?
I I didn't. I was
Oh,
more of a I was more of the Windows 3.0 games like Chip Challenge and Ski Free.
no. I mean, what did you play it when you were at school? What
Yeah,
games did?
Chip Challenge and Ski Free.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I love Oregon
What can I say?
Trail.
I
It
played.
was also.
Oh no, I did play Where in the World is Carmen San Diego.
I think that hardly counts. I guess that's geography.
Yeah.
Which
What do you
is
mean doesn't count?
basically what Carmen Sandiego was all about.
I
Why wouldn't it count?
I guess as edutainment it does count.
Oh, who's saying edutainment? I'm just saying games.
I was saying
Yeah.
edutainment.
Oh.
Like educational games, like games you played as part of the actual
Yeah.
curriculum.
Oh no, we didn't have any of those.
Hmm. Interesting. I do have Mike. You say you're ready to. You can skip your last story, but there's. I just wanted to mention this last story I had before we wrap up. If that's okay.
Sure. Oh yeah, I actually found this one pretty interesting.
So I had been. This was actually based on where I found it from a video from D News, a YouTube channel that every day they post science videos, kind of summarizing papers. And we've talked a lot in the past about health and the way kind of glycemic index affects how we process food, how we process sugar. And so this paper came out in the middle of November talking about how blood sugar levels and the glycemic index of foods don't necessarily correlate for everyone. Everyone's gut flora is actually slightly different. And so some people might be able to eat a normally like a high glycemic index food like cookies and basically have no blood sugar spike at all or very little blood sugar spike, but react. The example they have here is bananas. So there are two different participants in this study, and they react totally differently to bananas and cookies. So, and the whole study is like this, but this is one example they pulled out, where there are people who can eat high glycemic index foods and not react at all with any sort of blood sugar spike and crash, and then they can eat ones that have lower glycemic indexes, but they do experience that flux in blood sugar level, and vice versa. So the other person responds the opposite way, and basically just showing once again that diet is very individualized and everyone's going to react to different things in different ways. Some people can eat all kinds of fat or all kinds of protein and not put on weight and actually be healthier that way, whereas other people can eat as healthy as they want and or stereotypically as healthy as they want, eat a bunch of salad, for instance, and they can still kind of have a hard time health-wise because maybe their body reacts differently to certain ingredients in the salad they're eating than other people would. I thought it was really interesting, and I'll put a link to the D News video as well as the study, so people who are interested can go check that out. But I thought it was great, cool research.
At any point, did the participants walk out and go, "This study is bananas, bananas"? Then the rest of them walked out, "This study is bananas, bananas."
That was not in the video or the article, but I have to assume it happened at some point.
I would hope so. I mean, it was obvious.
Yes.
I hope someone picked up on that. And I'm assuming if the N was high enough to be a significant study, there should have been.
Yeah. Oh, I would think so.
Yeah.
I wonder if, I haven't looked at the study, but if they had enough participants that they could come up with like a net effect, and if they still found that the glycemic index theories or model held in an overall sense versus an individualized. Like obviously people are going to have their own responses and be exceptions, but if in general you'll still see the higher response with the high glycemic index foods versus the lower ones. Because it didn't seem like they were saying, well, the GI model is completely thrown out. It was more like, even though there is this, people might be exceptions to those rules.
I think from what I concluded from the video, because they went into a bit more detail about it, was that was not the case, that it's highly individualized, and so making generalizations like that is probably more harmful than just sort of figuring out for yourself what foods react to what way. But also, I want to point out that using GI to shorten glycemic index is very confusing because that is gastrointestinal, which is the main GI acronym that I'm familiar with.
Okay.
Thank you for that. I was like, wait, what?
I said glycemic index first, then said
I know.
GI, so I thought it was self-explanatory.
So, I haven't read through this whole study, but, which is always, the preface to great criticism. The graph they have here is the GI for bananas and cookies.
Yeah.
But bananas and cookies are very close on the glycemic index scale.
I just assumed they were different.
And, I mean, also sushi and ice cream. Sushi is heavily based on white rice, white short grain rice. And ice cream is a lot of sugar and fat and stuff like that. So I could see them being comparable on an average GI thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, I mean, I don't know what normal ranges for blood glucose are, but there are spikes. But you'll notice these graphs don't start at 0.
Right.
Or the y-axis doesn't begin with 0.
Right.
It's
I
heavily
wouldn't think it
cropped.
should.
Yeah. Sorry?
I wouldn't think it should start because you're always going to have some glucose in your blood.
Yeah. But like if you're going from a 0 to 115 scale, the difference is much slighter than what it seems upon glancing at it this way.
Right, but I don't think you are going from 0. You're starting from the baseline, which is presumably mentioned in the study, though not mentioned in this abstract. I understand what you're trying to say, but I just don't think starting with a baseline of 0 is necessary for this. I think the baseline is, it is possible that they're nitpicking results, but it seems like the baseline for the thing is around between 85 and 100, and you're coming up above 100 into the sort of 115 range. So it's not like the normal, like any sort of baseline you'd be measuring would start at 0. The baseline would start at around 85 or 90.
This is Robert.
Yeah, you wouldn't have it at 0.
Yeah.
I don't even mean about percentage change though.
Yeah, it's like
It
10%,
exaggerates.
15% or something.
Yeah, it exaggerates the change.
So
But the response, the shape of the response is literally mirrored.
Yeah.
Like it's as mirrored as you could ever get in experimental practice.
So normal levels in blood sugar are from 100 milligrams per deciliter to 125 milligrams per deciliter.
Based on what? Presumably that's based on what you just ate.
No. Like,
That's the normal
That's-
baseline without.
the mean normal blood glucose level in humans is about 5.5 millimoles per liter or 100 milligrams per deciliter. However, this level fluctuates throughout the day. Blood sugars levels for those without diabetes and who are not fasting should be below 6.9 millimoles per liter, 125 milligrams per deciliter.
Yeah.
So, like, it will fall. Hopefully, not so much, but
Yeah.
it should be so in the range that they've posted here.
Right. So that's what they're saying is that
Okay.
if you haven't eaten sugary foods in a while, it'll be at the low range, and if you have, it'll be at the high range. But that's all within the normal range, which is what you'd expect. You wouldn't expect to eat a banana and have your blood sugar just spike to the point where it's off the charts.
Yeah, the interesting thing is now that we're talking about it is the oh wait, now I'm confused now. 445. Yeah, like the blood sugar isn't the same. Like yeah, the starting point isn't the same for both.
Mhm.
I don't know how relevant that is. And it's
Well,
not
yeah,
the
like
same.
I said, this is
Yeah.
one thing stuck
Yeah.
out to show the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't see the difference at the end of the time period being that far off. Which, I mean, you ride a slightly different high and low, but I don't see it as being that different in the long run.
What, like the peak versus the non-peak?
No, like from the beginning to the end, the total net time. I mean, some people definitely have that spike there, and that's. I think that's not supposed to be good unless
No,
you're
I think it is.
exercising.
I think that's completely normal. I would think. When you eat something with sugar, that you would respond that way.
Yeah, it's normal, but you don't want your blood glucose to spike too much,
Right.
because that's an indicator of diabetes, I think.
Yeah. Over the normal 125, which neither of these cases
Yeah.
show that.
I don't know. What I'm concluding is that I don't understand enough about this to really comment properly.
So another aspect of the study that I'm just reminded of, I went into the paper because why not, is the fact that they did the study and then they looked at another smaller group of people. So the original study was 800 people. The what they call the validation cohort, they went back and tried to predict future people based on the initial test group, and they found that it was also probably not perfectly predictive, but it was also somewhat predictive of how people would respond to certain foods given their response to the initial testing of the whatever group of foods they used. So it also showed that there are groups of people that will respond in a certain way, and then it is predictive. If people respond one way to certain foods, they're probably going to respond in this specific way overall, as opposed to just being random.
I wonder if there's also like just a factor in that maybe some of these people eat more bananas than they do cookies, and others eat more cookies than they do bananas.
Yeah.
And so the body might just readily handle one better than the other.
Definitely possible.
This
Yeah,
is what
there's
I wonder.
Lots of control.
Yeah.
for sure.
The human body is weird.
It's
That's why I like chemistry. You mix it all up in a beaker and you don't have to worry about other things. It's beautiful.
That's fair.
I mean, you don't have to worry about things in the beaker if you mixed it up properly. But
Yes. All right, well, I guess we're good to wrap up for this week. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this week's Future Chat. We'll be back next week. Actually, we should talk about that, but typically we'll be back next week with more science and tech talk, and you can find past episodes of this show at unwindmedia.com/futurechat. See you next time.
See you guys.
toodaloo.
Yeah, we should. I don't know if you guys have anything to say in an after show, but we should figure out next week. Do you guys want to do one? Do you want to do like a year-end kind of thing? Just want to take a 2-week break.
Probably just take a break.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I also don't know if I'm available next Sunday. I'm available next Saturday, I think, if I'm remembering my schedule correctly.
The 19th?
The 19th, yes. Oh, wait, I might not be. You know why, Mike? Because Star Wars is coming out.
It's not coming out on the 18th?
Apparently they're doing a 9 a.m. showing on the 19th, and we got tickets.
Enjoy that.
I will. I am certain to enjoy it.
Sure, you and other Star Wars fans will enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, given any changes, what's going to end up happening is we will take a break for a couple of weeks. We might do some kind of thing, but it won't be a typical Future Chat. And then probably resume January 3rd-ish.
We could do another Fake It Future Chat edition.
We could. It would really depend on what we want to talk about. The content would, if it was science and tech based, then I think it's fine being Future Chat. But if it's just chatting and chilling, then I agree that Fake It would be a better platform. But that's something we don't have to decide now.
We'll figure something out.
Almost certainly.
Yes. So not next week. Presumably, you will definitely be back by early January, but we'll see you guys soon.
Sounds good.
All right.
See you then.
Nick, I imagine you have to go.
I work in just over an hour.
So, no? I don't actually know where the work is in relation to where you live.
It is 2 blocks north.
Okay.
There's a couple blocks. No? Are you right in line with it? Well, maybe. You're not any further east or west?
Nope. Well, if I walk straight up First Street, it's on the opposite side of First Street. So it is slightly west of where I am right now. But it takes... They've been doing construction on the sidewalks just next to my place. And it's the most aggravating thing. Because, like, you're completely at the mercy of the lights because you can't walk up one side or the other of the street, and you haven't been able to since I got here. For the longest time, it was convenient because the one that was open was the one on this side of the street, so I could just walk straight up to the train station.
Right.
But now I can't. I'm just straight up at the mercy of the light on 10th and 1st. It's aggravating. Traffic lights. Jerks.
Totally.
I'd say I prefer roundabouts, but they're not great for pedestrians, so I guess I'll take the traffic lights for now.
Has anyone ever told you you have a very Canadian accent, Nick?
Yes, that has come up. It, especially if I've had a few drinks, it gets really bad, apparently.
Really bad
Or
or
really good. Yeah.
It was bad when I worked in Lakefield, and, like, I would say, I'm going out. Do you need the car for anything? They were like, I beg your pardon? It's like, I'm going out. Do you need the car for anything? They're like, that's not what you just said. Yeah, apparently I might be picking up some regional stuff too.
I
Like,
believe that.
I think I said, what did I say to Kai the other day? It's like, oh yeah, gonna snow soon. I'm like, it's gonna what, Nick? It's gonna snow. Not what you said. We're gonna go to the show in the snow.
Oh,
Yep.
it's so weird.
That's, yeah. I hope I never have to give like a super international talk or anything ever, so that I won't have these sophisticated British accents there, and like people with normal accents just going, "Who is this hick they found? Where did,
But I
where
do
did
love
they
his
find him? What
his
what
majestic
section of the
beard.
backwoods did they retrieve him from?" Yeah.
Oh man,
Don't have any title ideas, guys. Sorry.
I only have the one.
Do you have one? Which one? Oh, okay. Yeah, that one works.
Where are you seeing this?
In the titles tab.
Oh, there's a titles tab now?
Oh no,
Been there for a while.
we're just
Oh,
discovering
hey.
it.
How about that?
Okay, I should probably go. I haven't had breakfast yet.
You do have Soylent, don't you?
Not at home. It's at work.
I have
Ooh.
a big glass of Soylent sitting right beside me right now. It was so convenient for future chat. Except I'm like halfway through it. So
Mhm.
take that with a grain of salt. Incidentally, a little salt in your Soylent tastes much better, and I'm just convinced it's probably better for you.
Yeah, I might try that actually. I hadn't thought of it, but
When I started doing Soylent, I started getting these weird headaches, and because I'd read so much about Soylent beforehand, I had seen other people getting weird headaches, and they were like, "Oh, just mix in a little salt and you'll be fine."
Hmm.
And by gum, I mix in a little salt. It's like, huh, headaches are gone. I feel much better.
well, they lowered the sodium content because people were complaining that like people who are supposed to be on low sodium diets are complaining, but now they're saying that those low sodium diets might be bad for you, which correlates
Well,
well with your headaches.
if you're hypertensive, I think it's probably a good idea. But
But they're saying that now hypertension has very little to do with sodium.
hmm,
Science changes.
It's
It's
true.
fine.
I had symptoms of hypertension for a time. It was fun.
Hmm.
Incidentally, glad I'm not working with some of my former coworkers anymore.
They sound related.
They might have been.
Hmm.
It's entirely possible. All right. So shall we stop the live portion at least, or
Done.